podcast has adult content. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome back to Rig Hand Radio. I'm sitting with my son Josh, and he's got a few things he'd like to talk about.
Yeah, one thing I'm curious about is how did you go about cleaning the sub back in the day? What was your bread and butter there?
Well, I could say a lot of different things, but I'll tell you there's only two differences that I've seen. There's only one way to clean something, right? You got to clean it with hot water, not cold water. No amount of detergent and no amount of pressure will clean anything unless you got hot water. So you start from the top and go down. You might as well spray off all the dirt, road dirt or whatever there is. You get some hot water with some rig wash in it, and you start scrubbing. And you rinse immediately, because if you let the rig water evaporate on the sub, it's just going to leave a stain and it's not going to be clean. So scrub it down, a manageable piece, and rinse it from the top down. Now, that seems pretty simple, but I ran into a guy on ATCO 58, Dave Luck, and I did just what I was taught. It was a black sub, and it was shining. And you know what he made us do?
What's that?
Spray diesel on it.
Oh, yeah.
Let's just think about that for a minute, okay? It's shiny. Yeah, okay, good. It's just destroying the paint, first of all. You're going to have to repaint, and there's only one way to paint. So, not a good thing to do, throw the diesel on there. I don't know who he thought he was trying to impress, but it wasn't me or anybody around there.
Did you ever have to just bring pails of sawdust in there and rub it on the walls? Was that a thing?
Well, no, but I have had to use paint scrapers because people don't get in the grooves and in the areas that you need to around the pinholes and whatnot. And yeah, it gets crudded up and it's pretty thick. But the pressure washer should take care of that stuff.
Yeah, because I heard a story about after a trip with invert, they would do a lockout on the wash guns. And so you could only bring sawdust in there.
Mm-hmm.
But
that's not a bad idea. Because you know what happens when water hits invert?
Just sprays.
It expands and it just gets all over everything else. So you basically want to clean up as much of it as you can, and then get the wash gun going. And even then, it's a unforgiving business.
Well, now that we're coming up to winter, how did you de-ice the rig? Let's talk about that little unit you had.
Well, like I said, there was one way we used to do it, and I'm sure, you know what? You could do all of these same things again and again and again. If you train somebody right and only put the proper people on it, you're not going to have a problem. But you give every man and his dog a toy, and it's going to work out differently. What we had for de-icing the sub was a 1-inch hose is the steam hose, right? You're going to need some steam. Now they got these steam blankets, and back in my day, we just had plastic, and we'd just lay out the plastic and let the steam run under there and de-ice it. But that, you know what? That's an all day long thing. And generally there's some places where the ice is pretty thick. Maybe there's salt in there and all sorts of stuff, and it's tough to de-ice. The best and fastest way to do it is you hook up a 1-inch hose to a steam jenny. And what that is it's a 1-inch pipe, probably about 3 feet long. Smash the end of it with a sledgehammer so that it's finned off a bit, spraying a little bit, not a 1-inch open end. Then at the top of it, you get a T, and you hook up the wash gun to that. Okay. Now imagine this. You got the steam going in, and you got the wash gun hose going in. And if you gauge that, if it's a cat wash gun, or doesn't matter, it's probably around 18 to 19 liters a minute without the nozzle on the end. That's just the water coming through without it being restricted. Now I know that because Dave Smeltsy would make us gauge every drop of water that we put on the mud tanks.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So, but good knowing that, right? I don't have to look up any specs. It's about 17 to 19 liters a minute. That water that's going in there with the steam hose wide open, and you know how it's just snapping coming out of the end. That water's coming out so hot. You could peel the skin off a dog if you wanted, but it comes out of there so hot that it just destroys the ice. Okay.
Yeah.
You want to talk about getting the invert off? Don't use a wash gun. Use one of those things. Then you got to wrap up that pipe with some sash cord or something, because that handle gets pretty hot. The steel gets pretty hot. And move that that thing around. Don't just stay in one spot. Get that water hot on top of all that ice and just keep moving it around. And man, you'll de-ice a whole rig in half a day.
But you need like every steam hose on the rig for
No,
that, or
oh
what?
no, just the connections. You come off a steam heater or whatever,
Hmm.
take it to another steam heater. But the key thing is to have water going in that steam.
Hmm. So, talking about camps and the food out there, what were some of your favorite meals, and what were some of the worst meals you ever got there?
Well, anybody that makes tuna casserole, that's a red flag right there. You're getting sick. But we had it was a pretty standard thing in the field. That's why I was questioning some of the things today. We had a junk food day, okay, and that would be hot dogs and hamburgers. Okay, you'd have I don't know why because you could have them on different days, but that was junk food day, and you'd have pizza on that day. Okay, that was the
It's a
junk
good
food
day.
day. Yeah, French fries and yeah, it was. And then you'd steak night was Friday night. You'd always get a steak and a baked potato. Okay. And then during the week, you'd have a pasta day. Those are never, they can't cut it. None of them rig cooks could ever do anything good with pasta. It was a runny tummy day.
Hmm.
Then you'd have uh, shepherd's pie. That was a good one. And a lasagna. Lasagna, they never made it right either for
Mm.
my taste,
Yeah.
but the shepherd's pie was generally pretty good. The soups were good. I'd have to say my favorites were probably the shepherd's pie and steak day if they cooked it good. Can't fuck that up too much.
Yeah. Pizza's hit or miss.
Yeah.
Can't fuck that up too much.
The hamburgers were good, but looking back at it and having to have my gallbladder removed fairly shortly, I don't think the
Yeah.
junk food day was the best. But the hot dogs, man, they used to wrap the hot dogs in
Bacon or what?
bacon,
Oh, yeah.
and then put the cheddar cheese on and bake the whole shittery. And I was just throwing the buns away. I was just eating hot dog after hot dog. Like 11 hot dogs.
So, Kelly there just got a new truck. What do you think about these rig hands going out there and the first paycheck get pre-approved for a brand new truck?
I guess I did the same thing back in the day, and the prices are just the same if you go by the scales and everything. But I just, and you know what? If you're a single guy and you got no commitments, why not? Who gives a fuck, right? Find yourself a deal that's 0% financing and put as much down as you can, and then just make the payments. It's just like money in the bank. I guess you got a new unit. You don't want to outfit it too much. Like there's some of these guys that go buy a new truck and right off the lot they put a lift in it and tires and everything else. I mean, try to spare yourself some pain. I myself back in the day we had rig rockets.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we get a good old Ford.
Those don't need insurance or anything. You just,
you should have some insurance on it, but because the fine outweighs the worst of it. But I knew a guy who had a Ford LTD. It had a police interceptor in it and a four-door. This thing, you could have parties in there, man. It was giant. You sleep in that thing, no problem. All the rig clothes, the trunk was massive. A big Ford LTD, and that thing was fucking fast on the highways. And that thing lasted him forever, his whole career on the rig. And I had an old Ford that I got from one of my friends in high school, his dad. That lasted me a long time. Just the thing of it is I worked later in higher paying job, and I had new units, right? And I was making good money, and why not buy a new unit and give her? But I destroyed every one of those vehicles. Those roads will destroy it. If it don't get you, the salt will. If that doesn't get you, something else will. You can take a new truck and within 5 years, I mean, this thing's rattling, dust is coming in the door seals. It's just not the way to go. If you can get yourself an old good rig rocket, drive it to work and back and park it, save your other vehicle.
And then another question for not only new hands, but hands that have been around for a while. What's your advice for relationships and marriage? You've had a few run-ins with divorce there.
Yeah, I sure have. But then again, I'm international. I the last few relationships I got into, I would start like this. I'd say, listen, I'd look them straight in the eye and I'd say, you're nothing but a failure at relationships up to this point. And so am I. So let's not take all our bad juju from them ones. Let's take some learnings from that and not recreate that, And you have to draw yourself a line in the sand. I say it all the time. If there's just something that you cannot deal with, like, I don't know, whatever. Say you're leaving your dirty shorts around the house and skid stains all over them, and the wife's got to go and pick them up and stuff. And she does that, and you just don't pick them up and whatever. And that's okay. She's willing to put up with that. but maybe you're doing something else that she just can't live with. Maybe you're on the, or do you even have 1-900 numbers?
They
You're on the
must.
porn lines or something. I don't know. Just pick something where her line in the sense is that's it. I don't want a husband like that. I don't. No one's got the time to put in to fix somebody else. Fuck it. Get rid of it
Yeah.
and start on a new one. There's so many people on this planet. Kudos for you for trying to fix somebody, but that's a world of pain. So I'd say, just go into them like that. Um, uh, and I used to say pick somebody that's career oriented so that when you're gone, they have a life, but that's not necessarily the way to go. I've seen lots of people that are happy. Uh, they just like being housewives and waiting for the man to come home and just looking after things. There's all kinds of different people, but having your line where you don't overstep any boundaries and learning from your past mistakes is probably the best way to go forward.
That's some good advice. Then to switch it up a little bit, how about them Oilers? What do you think about that?
Oh boy. Well, if I had my genie in a bottle, I would rub that fucker and say, listen, go get Gretzky, get him coaching. Okay. Or actually, I get Gretzky helping the
Yeah, he
coaching
needs to be
team.
there for morale, but he can't
He
be the head man.
he needs to be the GM. He needs to be like Slats, making the trades from the inside, getting the Kenny Linsmans, you know, off trading for guys, and then he becomes the hero. Or, I mean, all of the guys they had back in the day were just colorful, but you need the GM to make those trades. And we had no idea what old Slats was doing. And he'd make a trade, and we were just sick. We were physically sick that he would make that trade. And a year would go by, another year. But then that third year, she was gelling together. It was just unreal. I wish old Semenko was still alive. I'd get him working on the defense team.
Oh, yeah.
We need something there. And the goaltending, well, I'm not going to complain. I think you need to start looking at the juniors. You need to be looking at the juniors. You need to get those scouts out there and looking for the guys that not necessarily all the talent. Like, let's face it, you're not going to find too many Connor McDavids out there. But you look at that guy that's got the heart, and it'll take 5 years, but you'll have a team that's be strong.
Hmm.
Another drive for 5. Do something about the goaltending. And let's face it, we got the best player right now in NHL, and you never know, it could be in NHL history, just under the Gretz. But if he can't win us a cup, there's something really wrong there. And I don't think it's a team. We've got good players. They got great understanding, and the teamwork isn't there. And it's frustrating. And that's why Connor McDavid looks so astronomical in some plays, because he's just so
Yeah.
frustrated and he's just got nowhere to go. He has to do it,
Hmm.
right? And I'm not saying it's just him. He's not a one-man army. There's other good guys out there. But if that team's not gelling together, it's never going to happen for us.
I'd like to talk to you about your thoughts on the police. You've had a few run-ins with them.
Well, then and now, or which police, which force, the city cops or the RCMP?
Let's talk about the city cops. What are your feelings on those?
Well, I got to say, I don't really. Well, I think all riggers and blue collar people have issues with authority. Never mind the cops. We're just like that. It's bred into our souls. These Edmonton City Police, okay, and everybody's gonna say the same thing. But look at this fucking homeless problem. Shouldn't even be a homeless problem if you look at Greaseball and all that housing out there that's just sitting there with nobody in it. Yeah, and they destroy everything. I get that. You put them in a convention center when COVID came and they were destroying everything, the bathrooms and everything else, the homeless people. So we got a homeless problem, I guess. The police. Now, these guys are doing black tar heroin on Chinatown. I seen it. I was right there. Police driving by. They're littering all their shopping carts and shit all over downtown. They're sleeping everywhere, pissing everywhere. That's lewd behavior. That's obstruction of justice. That's littering. It's just jaywalking. All of these things. When's the last time they gave a fucking littering ticket out? But at any rate, I get it. We got nowhere to put these guys. Well, that's a problem. But instead of coming with problems, why don't you come with some solutions? Okay. And I know one thing, those police officers have to say an oath to uphold the law. Now, how is it better for them to hand out speeding tickets and all kinds of these traffic violations because we can pay for those things and the homeless people are just getting a freebie? I got a real problem with that. I mean, if you want to serve and protect, do it.
You want to tell the story about your little prison stint? How did that go down?
Well, there was more than one, but
Well, The main one.
The main one was working on the rig, lots of money, very strong, not taking no shit.
Don't know your own strength.
Yeah. I look back at it now. I could have killed a lot of people, if you just hit them the wrong way and they get some brain seizure, they're weak in the head. That's it. That's manslaughter.
Can't kill someone by breaking their legs.
No, that's it. Well, you get to that later. You got to hurt him. You got to really hurt him, eh? One guy in Spruce View, I remember I got in a scrap in Spruce View. We had just taken first aid and we were in the Spruce View bar and this guy comes in. And I guess Dave Nelson, always looking for trouble, sitting with some girl. And this is his brother comes in with his friends and they come up to the table and they said, "You mind if we sit here?" And we don't give a fuck. Sit everywhere you want. We don't care if you sit at the table. Maybe you'll buy around. I sit at the table and this guy's just beaking and beaking and beaking. And I said something he didn't like. And he stands up, he says, and he's talking to the whole bar. He says, "Two men are going outside. One man's coming back." I said, "I'll meet you out there."
Yeah.
I go outside and he wasn't drunk and I wasn't drunk either. I gave him a few taps. This fucker was unconscious, gurgling on the ground on the pavement. Okay. And I thought that doesn't look right. So having just taken first aid, I rolled him over into the recovery position and
Mighty kind of, yeah.
came back in and said, "Dave, we better get out of here." So we went back to the rig. Ed Hennelbecker was the relief push. The cops show up to camp. Fast Eddie comes over to me and says, "Darin, the police are here. You want to take care of this, please?" I said, "Sure, Ed." So I go to the cop and he says, "I'd like to hear a statement from you on what happened the other day." And I told him exact story. And he said, "Yeah, that's pretty much what we got. That guy's an asshole. He's in trouble all the time." And I said, "Thanks." And he left. But there again, could have turned into something bad. So the prison sentence, we were at Esmeralda's, one of our favorite hangouts. It was either there,
Oh, yeah.
Cook County Saloon or Johnny C's. We're in Esmeralda's and everybody's scrapping, all these cowboys, piss and vinegar and money and whatever. Back in those days, if you didn't like the guy in the bar, you just walk, he's coming towards you and you don't know. And you would just give him the straight shoulder and you just fucking turn him right around, eh? While you're going outside after that. So anyways, there's all these fights happening, breaking out all over the place. I was there with my girlfriend, Selena, and everybody was just scrapping. And then they shut the lights off. They do this pretty regularly. And it's pitch black. So everybody goes outside. The bar's closed now. We go outside and all these scraps are going on. And I was squaring off with this guy in the street. Everybody was, imagine the bar unloading it. There's people everywhere.
Chaos.
Yeah, not just one scrap. There's a bunch of them. And so I was squaring off with this guy and I felt this ungodly pain in my shin, right in my lower shin. And just reaction, you just turn, I thought it's just some guys, whatever. I just turned around and I just punched. And I hit this cop. Oh, man, I hit him square right in the eye.
Yeah.
And that guy went down. And then I felt the pain again.
Oh.
But this time I'm in shock and pumped up. And this time it was in my shoulder. And
Yeah.
I just turned around, same thing. Square in the jaw. Both cops down.
There was the partner.
His partner.
Down.
Two cops down. I said, "Holy fuck." So I got out of there. I went home, not feeling too good about what's going on. I don't know what's happening. We were living down by this rental unit in this house by Richard's Pub in Edmonton. I go downstairs. I hung over a little bit and I thought I guess work this outside. My heavy bag down in the basement. I was punching it. I had my hands wrapped up and I didn't hear a knock at the door, but about 8 cops came in the house. They took me out of there in handcuffs. Had that hands wrapped still. And they took me down to the police station. I was just wearing my hospital pants. So anyways, I went up in front of the judge and, I had nothing to say and much money or anything like that. And he says, "How do you plead here?" And I said, "Well, I plead guilty." I said, "I don't got enough money to pay any fines and I just want to get this behind me." I said, "I didn't know we were cops." He said, "Well, what happened?" And this judge, I got to give this judge credit. You know what? Because it's not like that anymore. This judge says, "What happened? I'm not going to let you plead guilty." He says, "You don't know what you're doing. You can go to jail for this for a long time."
Mm-hmm.
I said, well, I don't have money for a lawyer. So he says, "Is there a lawyer in this courtroom?" And of course there is. And some guy lifted his hand up. He says, "You're his lawyer. Take him outside and tell him what's going on." So we went outside and he tells me all this stuff. I said, "I fucking know that. I know that going in here." I said, "Well, it doesn't change nothing." I said, "I did it. There's about 1 million witnesses. What am I going to say?" So we go back in and he tells the judge, yeah, I talked to him. He said, pretty adamant to what he wants to do. I said, "Okay, well," he says, "What happened?" I said, "Well, this is exactly what happened. I hit this guy, I felt some pain, and I hit this other guy and felt some, when I felt the pain, and I didn't want that to happen. I was scrapping some other guy because this is just going on." and, just reacted. And the judge says, yeah, okay. And then he asks the cops, he says, is that what happened? They said, yep, word for word. By the way, when you get into a fight with a cop and you win, they send that guy out of town somewhere. The judge says, well, son, you're free to go. You're off all charges. And I was shocked. And he says, but just stay there for me. He
Yeah.
says, what happened was they charged you with aggravated assault, 2 counts on police officers, and they cannot charge you for that. By their own admission, that's not aggravated assault. He says, let me school
Mhm.
the courtroom on this.
Yeah.
I like this guy. And he says, you have to hit. It has to be struck more than one time. And he says, by the way, you shattered the one cop's eye socket and
It's
broke,
orbital.
yeah, and broke the jaw of the other guy. They said, but don't go too far. He said, they're just going to charge you when you get outside. So they recharged me with assault causing bodily harm. And I went back in there and he says, how do you plead? I said, guilty. And he says, fair enough. So I got 18 months in Grand Cache prison. That's a native prison, but the other ones were full. So that's where I went. And let me tell you something. That's a work camp.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You go out and you go in on the bus and you work cutting trees and slashing roads. I had no time for anything else. Didn't even get a speeding ticket after I got out of there.
And then back to the rigs.
Yeah. I got 18 months, but I was only in there for, I think it was 8.
Seems like there's a few hands that have come out there that have had a little stint in prison for one thing or another.
Yeah. But the good thing going for me was I had a job when I got out.
Yeah.
I had a letter from the tool push. And you know what? I think back in those days, it's not just about what's this and that. It's this happened. It's
Yeah.
wrong. You got to see it's wrong,
Mhm.
and it doesn't look like you're gonna reoffend. I had a kid by that time, and I just wanted to get out and go to work. And by pleading guilty and knowing that it's what the consequences were, I think he was pretty lenient on me.
So on the topic of fights, let's talk about the story about the core hand. So I was telling you about when a core hand came out to the rig and we were kind of picking his brain a bit and he's making some good money. So I called you up and I said, hey, what do you think about becoming a core hand? And you said, listen, Josh, nobody respects a core hand.
Yeah, no, they hate him. These fucking core hands, or not all. Andre Roseberry, not all. Fishermen, same category. These guys come out to the rig. I mean, coring is so fucking simple. I know now than what it used to be. But these guys thought they were the gods of the oil field. Oh, look, we got this car. And if anything happens, all that driller he jammed off or, he fucking did the connection wrong or whatever, just a bunch of stupidity. But this fisherman, these guys, you're already fucked up. You're in a bad position. Okay. You're fishing. And we already know what we got. There's only so many things you can do, right?
Yeah.
Wall hooks, magnets, mills, this, that, the other. And overseas, you do all that stuff yourself. You just go to the container and pick what you want and go up there. There's no core hands or no fishermen. And if they get it out of the hole, well, they're the hero.
Yeah.
Oh, they're just a big fucking
Oh,
hero.
yeah.
And we had this one fisherman come to the rig. And this guy was just, he was an older guy too. I was about maybe 19. And this guy was like 40 something, probably an alcoholic. His old cowboy. He had shit kickers on and jeans. And it was cold. And this guy was just screaming at us. And if you've ever made up fishing tools or testing barrels or core barrels, there's lots of connections and you're roughnecking. And this guy's just yelling at you. And he's telling you, hey, you idiot, I told you to put the fucking things on the bottom. And the tool push wasn't on the floor. And I fucking looking at Nelson, and Nelson wouldn't say shit if his mouth was fucking full of it. So I said, fuck, I'm going to lose it, man. I just can't take it. And when you're getting just pinched and poked and prodded?
Yeah.
Well, this guy was right at the
switch.
Yeah, I was on the makeup side and he was right in the A-legs, like on the other side
Yeah.
by me and just screaming at me. Not wearing it, never mind coveralls on. He just had a jean jacket and jeans and shit.
Hard hat or
and a hard
something.
hat, yeah. And I said, you better shut your fucking hole there already. And he looked at me and he says, who the fuck do you think you are? And I'm fucking Darin Pinchuk. Put your hands up and defend yourself. Right in the A-legs. And I hit that fucker, I don't know how many times. There was a couple combinations for sure. Labeled him right in there. He's just swole up and fucking folded right in the A-legs. And I said to Dave, I'm going to go downstairs and tell the push. Go spool my rags. I went down there and the fucking tool push, he told me I'd have probably done the same thing.
Right on. That was Hodge.
Chuck Hopkins.
Okay. Right on. I was thinking back to a story you used to tell us about I think it was Africa when you killed a snake.
Yeah, I brought that snake skin home too.
Yeah.
I wrapped it around my leg so I
I
could get
think
it for
Jared,
custom.
my brother, still has it.
Yeah. Well, we were in Gabon, Africa, and I've been in other places in Africa, and I've been into Brazil pretty deep now too. But that Gabon, Africa, I never seen nothing like that, man. For critters. Anyways, it was night and it rained and off and on and stuff, and I had to go into a container for something. And these are 40-foot containers, and holes cut in the front ends of them, and a trouble light in there. Not a row of lights like they have now, something where you can actually see, but one trouble light at the front, one light bulb. There's, I think, 7 containers. And I needed something out of container number 2, but for some reason I went into container number 4. Just thinking about my wife at home or something, I don't know. And I went in there and I was in there looking for sample bags.
Yeah.
And I go all the way to the back. Oh yeah, I'm in the wrong fucking container. So I start walking out. And the cords that we strung through in the front with the trouble light on it, I could see this giant snake, this black snake uncoiling itself off that thing. Now, there's no way to get past that thing. There's no other door in there. You got to go through the front end. And that's him or me. And I don't know much about snakes, but I don't think I'm faster than a snake. But lucky thing, I was in the container where the shovels were. So I grabbed a shovel.
Old spade.
Yeah. And I thought, fuck, I better stay away from this thing. And, if you got a brand new spade and grab it by the very end, because you want to stay as far away as you can, and you're pumped up, it's hard to wield that thing properly. I smashed the shit out of the whole front end of that snake, boy. I was so nervous, eh?
Yeah.
But you hear these black mambas, and there's some of the fastest snakes in the world over there. And yeah.
Fuck.
That was horrible, man.
Yeah, we still got the skin.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. You still got that elephant's tooth I brought home?
It's somewhere. We got it.
There was a baby elephant that died or something, and some goofball in the market says, "Hey, look what I got from the jungle, an elephant's tooth." And this thing was massive and heavy, and it was just from a baby. So I brought it home. It was a pretty cool thing, actually. And kids took it for show and tell, and it ended up at home. But something about that tooth, over time, it decayed.
Yeah.
It needs to be a functioning
Kept in some formaldehyde or something.
It just went to turn to salt.
Yeah. But then you're a freak if you're keeping stuff like that around.
Freaks anyways, fuck.
Then I wanted to get into Blair a little bit more with you. We talked about him. He was the Obi-Wan Kenobi to your rigging career, pretty much.
Yeah.
Taught you the ways, and he had a pretty interesting life. We talked about how he robbed a couple banks back in the day, but you'd brought up a story about a car accident.
Oh, yeah.
What happened there?
Well, we were all farmers, kids, right, and stuff. And like I said, Blair's dad was Screaming Joe Frey. And so just naturally, Blair went on the rigs and this and that, and, got into lots of trouble. But before that, they were farm kids, right? And we were farm kids, and, well, my parents.
This is in Westlock, or where is this?
Well, we were out by Clyde, and we went to school in Westlock. And he was out by Rochester, places like that, and then ended up in Pembroke. But Blair was, I don't know what grade he was in. It was in high school sometime, and they were driving a van, and there was a guy, the driver, and Blair was sitting in the middle of the van. He had, I can't remember the girl's name, but she was sitting on his lap. It was actually his best friend's girlfriend, and his best friend was Lyle Fadouk. And
he was in the pasture?
Yeah. And Lyle Fadouk was, I don't know if you guys ever seen that picture. What's Brett Hull's father's name? Bobby Hull. There's a picture of Bobby Hull when he's throwing bales up into the barn. And he's got no shirt on. And this guy's just genetically blessed and massive. And Lyle Fadouk was like that. He didn't lift the weight, but he had pecs and traps and delts and everything.
Oh, yeah. Gifted.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And blonde-haired guy, really nice. And that was Blair's best friend. Blair was a shorter guy, but just like a pit bull.
Little Buddha.
Yeah.
That's what they would call him in prison.
Scrapping all the time and everything. And Lyle would get him out of messes and this and that. Anyways, they were driving down the highway and they drinking, and they decided to play chicken.
Yeah.
Well, Blair said he didn't want to have nothing to do with that. He told the guy he was fucked. But this guy would shut the lights off in the van and go in the other lane and scare the shit out of people.
Yeah.
And these people they weren't playing with him.
He was just his game.
Ed Gein in them. I don't know what the fuck he was doing. Anyways, they got in a head-on collision, and that motor went right through that girl. And Lyle Faduka's friend dead instantly.
Wow.
And that motor went right through that girl and into Blair's stomach, and he lost most of his stomach and 3/4 of his liver. Ended up in the hospital in a coma. Driver, of course, not a scratch. Well, as time went on, someone's got to pay for this. Eh? And
Yeah.
this fucking
Cops are asking.
this fucking driver said he wasn't driving. He said Blair was driving, and Blair was a crazy, and
Yeah.
everybody knew it, and it just seemed logical.
And where's Blair now?
He's in the hospital in a coma.
Oh,
So a month goes by, and Blair's showing signs that he's going to come out of this.
yeah.
Well, that fucking driver told his brothers to go feed Blair some cookies.
Oh,
Give him a box of cookies, and Blair's in coma.
insulin spike. And
and no stomach, eh? And then he almost died for sure. He was like right there. But he comes out of that.
feeding him cookies in the hospital.
Yeah, he comes out of that, and they charge him and everything. Blair's a prick, eh? He's just, whatever. I'll fucking work, you guys. And he doesn't wait. He waits till it goes to trial. And at trial, he says, they're saying, well, from this measurement and that measurement, they skid marks, it looks like you were driving. And I seen the comment in the transcript. I was reading it and laughing. It said, and he says to the cops, his reply was, yeah, everybody's a detective. And he's like 17 at this time, eh?
Yeah.
Anyways, it comes out that other guy was driving, and he has to go do hard time.
Yeah.
And then Blair goes to work on the rigs. And I think the death of his best friend and all that stuff was just, doesn't lead you down a good
It would
path.
affect you for sure.
Yeah. But, he was a good cousin.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, he never was part of the family because a
little bit of an outcast.
Yeah. Like me, Guy, Bad Bob.
And then what was his father's name? Screaming Joe?
Joe Frey. Screaming Joe Frey. Now, Joe was a tough customer right from the soul. I remember when my Baba died, Blair was in prison, and I phoned the warden of the Drumheller, and they said he didn't want to come out.
Yeah.
I said, at least he's notified.
Mm-hmm.
And I go to the funeral, and everybody's in there and this and that. My Baba, she lived a long life. She was 98 when she died. She was loved by everybody.
Yeah.
She's the cook. She's the Baba. So I see Joe there, and he's taking it pretty hard. You got all the pews, and everybody's over on one side, and then the pews are empty on the other side. And there's Joe in the corner, hunched over, wearing black shit kickers, brand new black suit pants, and a black leather jacket, gray hair with a flat top. That was Joe. So anyways, Joe was a tough customer. I remember his wife, Polly. She got polio and recovered from that. She had a bit of a hunchback after that. Oh yeah. This is rig people, man.
Yeah.
And farmers. And so she had her sickness.
Yeah.
And then now it's the end of Joe's life, and he's getting old, and he gets diagnosed with the diabetes.
Yeah.
And Paulie just loved making pie.
Oh.
And Saskatoon and blueberry. And that doctor told Joe, he said, Joe, I hate to tell you this, but you gotta stop the pies. And he looked at that doctor, and everybody's younger than Joe. So he says to the doctor, he says, fuck you. He says, that's comfort food. That'll be the day.
Yeah.
And he kept eating those pies right to the end, and he never took any insulin.
Really?
Yeah, he didn't. He said, fuck that.
Fuck it.
Yeah. And you know what? His fucking legs swole up like telephone poles. You know how much pain this fucking guy was in the hospital? I said, Joe, they're going to cut your fucking legs off.
For sure. They do.
He said, I let him try. And he fucking no painkillers right to the end, and he died. But that was Joe.
Wow.
And he was a fucking force.
And so you got a fair share of screaming from him.
Oh yeah, for sure. But you know what? This screaming business, like I said before, they scream to be heard, and they scream a lot of times so you won't hurt yourself.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of different reasons. And once you start understanding that, and I mean, it's all how you get treated after you get screamed,
Yeah.
Like you wonder, well, fuck, is this guy mad at me? And he's not mad at you. We're just talking like things are, it's just different. Now you scream at somebody, well, I don't know, they're calling those cops.
And then what's probably the worst bout of screaming you ever received on the rigs? One that really stuck with you.
Well,
like,
that fisherman, that was too much for me.
Yeah.
And I never really got screamed at for anything. I got called a dumb cunt a lot of times because, I didn't know what was going on, or I didn't know the procedure, but no real reaming out per se. Well, I shouldn't say that. I got it a few times from Dennis, but I really appreciated that because he was thinking back now. He was telling us, you're gonna be a fucking loser if you don't smarten up, sort of thing.
Mhm.
In not so many words. It wasn't about his reputation, the rig's reputation, or anything else. He just knew better. And imagine, you see your kids and you see them doing something wrong, and over and over, you got to give them shit, man. I can tell you about the worst reaming out I got as a drilling superintendent, and
What was that?
I got fucking reamed out by my friend, that big guy from The Hague there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Richard Hinkschminkler. I worked for this guy for a long time in Iraq, and then he got let go from the Chinese. They couldn't handle him, and they kept me. People from The Hague and Holland, they're different, right? They go both things a different way, like Shell does. It's not necessarily wrong, and he was smart. Anyways, I end up in Brazil working for him, and I just get out there, and they're just having nothing but problems. They can't keep tools in the hole, failures with MWD, motors, everything. And then if that ain't happening, it's sloughing in and they're getting stuck and losing the well. And there's 4 strings cemented in this hole that I'm on, and I just get out there. Anyways, I'm on location, and I just, a couple days go by, and I'm trying to grasp all this stuff, and these fucking MWD hands and directional drillers, they're tired of this. They got no go left in them. They shouldn't even be out there. I asked for information. I said, "What's the motor sheet? I want to see this motor before we go." Yeah, got it. They emailed it to some guy. Well, fuck, that's not what I asked you, And it's painful. And you don't really want to go and tell everybody to fuck off right away, because you can't.
Mhm.
It's painful to find which way to talk to different people. Anyways, I get the motor sheet, and it's a used motor, and there's new ones on the rack,
Mhm.
and the fucking thing had 90 hours on it.
Yeah.
And this guy said, "No, I call the offices. This is what we're doing."
Yeah.
And a lot of places, the oil company lets the directional call the shots with directional tools because that's their forte.
Mhm.
But we know that doesn't work. So, okay, they're putting this fucking thing in the hole. I send all the information. I said, "Here's the BHA, here's the motor, here's the blah, 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 blah." Richard gets it, but he doesn't look at any of that stuff
Yeah.
because I'm there. And you know what? If you've got people that you trust and you pay them, that's what they're getting paid for.
Mhm.
Motor goes down the hole, shits itself in the first hour.
Yeah.
And we're pulling out of the hole, and Richard says, "I just don't know what's going on there." I says, "Well, I'll tell you what's fucking going on. You put a motor in the hole that's got 90 hours on it. What do you think?"
Yeah.
Silence. He said, "When you get in the casing, just chain the brake channel down, and I'm coming out to the rig." So we were working in a town called Pajuca, and that was pretty far from the capital, 2 plane rides. And we sat there and waited for him to come out. And then me and this geologist, really great guy, Cody from Montana, we're waiting for Richard, and he comes out. We had no idea he was going to be mad. And he fucking came out and he said that we shouldn't even be on the location. How unacceptable is
For
that?
putting that motor.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And what do you say? He is right.
Yeah.
He is right. I should have made a call and just said, "Fuck you guys. I'm not putting that in the hole."
Mhm.
And it would have been right out there. And I'm not putting any excuses, just getting out there or anything else. He's right.
Yeah.
And we had to, oh my God. It went on for about 20 maybe even half an hour. And I couldn't believe Cody was sitting there taking it. Because this guy is like, he's from Montana. And he's not a normal geologist. This guy looks like Grizzly Adams, right? But he's a little bit shorter, and he's just ripped. And he's so fucking smart. This guy's like wired.
Yeah.
And we just let it happen.
Hmm.
And you know what? We took it because it was fucking right.
Well, yeah, what I was going to say is, that's a pretty major event, but going back to, when you fuck up on a couple small things, the rig's one place where you'll never, be so put down for doing something wrong. But at the same time, it's when you do something wrong the first time, it's almost 90% likely that you're going to make that same mistake the second time. So by doing that, it almost reverses the freaking brain chemistry. And you're like, I am never doing that again.
And that's a healthy work attitude. I don't see anything wrong with that. And how does it happen? With somebody giving you shit.
Yeah.
And I'll say it once, I'll say it a million times. I respect the guys that crack the whip, but only the guys that have felt the sting of it.
Yeah. And when you deserve shit, you take shit.
I seen a guy in Yemen, Vince Barubi, big fucking Frenchman. Strong
We'll
as
have him on later.
Strong as an ox. We just got off long change, and we get out there in the desert, and they're pulling out of the hole tubing. Big triple. neighbors 117. Tesco, or no, it was Canrig Top Drive 002. That means it was the second one ever built. And he was highballing her out of the hole, and I mean fast. And this Roland was his relief, and he had this Kenworth mirror rigged up on the side of the derrick railing so that you could look up the derrick instead of stretching way out. Well, Vince was trying to use that, and they were talking to him and this and that, and I seen that second single go by, and I knew what was happening. And it was wide fucking open. And he hit that crown.
Oh my God.
Yeah. You know that super safety belt that was on top? The giant bolts and everything?
Yeah.
That thing came crashing down.
How long were you guys down for after that?
Maybe half a day. We had another crown section.
Okay.
You got everything overseas. You got extra everything. So anyways, those wooden beams up there just exploded. Just sawdust. Just fucking sawdust, man. And I make it up to the floor. I don't even know if I took 2 steps on that mud tank ladder. I get up to the floor. I said, Vince. And he just looks at me, he smiles, he says, I think I'm in trouble. We went down and talked to Ivan, another Frenchman.
Yeah.
And we were working for a French company, Total. Nobody could save Vince for doing that. I mean, it happened. Ivan says to Total, I can't be involved in this. What do you guys want to do? You want to get rid of him? I'll get a plane out here now. And the fucking Frenchman from Total, he said, I know one thing. He'll never do that again.
Yeah. That's awesome. Those are probably some fun guys to work with.
Oh, fuck. They were just, you go somewhere to do a job and you're getting paid to do that job. And I don't know what goes wrong there, but you want to have fun too, right? You want to make it fun. You want to tell jokes.
You're there all the time, and you don't want to be working with people that are miserable.
Right. And you just get it at one point, So that's why this thing about getting shit out of you, I don't understand it myself. If you fucking do something stupid, you take the shit, man, because either you're learning and you're not getting hurt. I mean, what is the downside of it? Somebody yelled at you? Fuck, man, go get a Smartie or something. Like, it's pathetic the way the world has come.
Oh, yeah.
And I understand you can't put fucking people down and you to their core, but there's a difference between if I looked at you and say, you know what, you're a fucking idiot. Or if I say, listen, you're acting like a fucking idiot right now.
Yeah.
Acting is different than being.
Yeah, they got a roughneck on his phone at the rig there, and the push laid into him pretty good. And, he's just pacing around after, a big frown on his face. And we're like, we all knew what happened there. And all he says, I don't appreciate being talked to like that. And we couldn't all help but just start pissing ourselves laughing.
You should have said, you know what? I bet you'd be frowning even more if you shoved that fucking cell phone up your ass.
Yeah, that's what we should have said. Yeah,
did
it to yourself there.
Yeah. Oh, the fucking cell phones.
Well, yeah, we'll wrap up there, and until next time.
All right, guys.
Take care.
Well, that's it for today, but be sure to tune in next time for another juicy edition of Rig Hand Radio. This is Josh and Darin Pinchuk. That's a wrap. Stay on the right side of the dirt. Welcome to Rig Hand Radio.